What I want to say is that I thought about it a lot, and my wife thought about it a lot. Buying an off-grid house in Sweden, that is. It sounds like freedom, and it is, but owning also comes with a lot of responsibilities, such as the maintenance and the obligation to go there. And of course the extra costs. The costs of the house itself, the maintenance, the round-trip travel, insurance, taxes. All these costs are on top of the costs we already have for living in an ordinary house, in an ordinary country. At least until the Swedish house would be ready for permanent living and we found a way to sustain ourselves in the middle of the forest. Every day for the next few years, the idea took more shape, and after quite some time we felt we were ready. Let's buy an off-grid house in the north of Sweden. And so we did. Well, the buying part was strange and weird, and it all just happened by chance. For the past few years, we've been going to Sweden on holiday, taking with us a list of properties for sale in the area we like. There are a number of websites that advertise houses for sale, and it's really helpful to check them throughout the year, so you can get an idea of what's up for sale, what type of houses there are, and what the going prices are. We've looked at quite a few properties, but they were too expensive, too neglected, or just plain abandoned. Too noisy, near a road or train tracks, too little land, and the list goes on. We've learned a few things along the way. The house is rarely as beautiful in real life as it is in the photos. If there are no interior photos, they are missing for a reason. The asking price is nowhere near the final price, because you buy a house by bidding on it. And they advertise with extra low starting price to attract as many bidders as possible and drive up the price. Bear in mind that many buyers are from abroad and cannot come to see the property before they make an offer. A lot of houses are so-called holiday homes or summer cottages. This could mean that they're only lived in for a few weeks or months in summer. Or it could mean that Uncle Sven died in 1976 and the house has been empty ever since, and his children have decided to get rid of it before it collapses. And be careful, almost all houses are made of wood. And wood and overdue maintenance go badly together, as we found out, but more on that on another video. Like so many people, we wanted a house in the woods, next to a lake, with a mountain in the background and a moose in the garden. We didn't want a house in the south, where it's too crowded and can be very expensive, but not too northern either, where you only get 6 days of daylight a year. But it had to be northern enough for quiet wilderness and real winters. And it had to be off the grid. And most importantly, it had to be cheap. Not an easy search. This 1 year after looking at yet another house that looked promising but wasn't, we headed out to camp in a spot quite near to the house we've just visited. We almost always camp in the van. During the drive, my wife saw on her mobile phone that there was another property for sale not far from the spot where we were going to camp. So we decided to go and have a look. It was a beautiful house, maybe a little bit too big, but the location was great. Situated in the woods, it also had a village not too far, but far enough, and no neighbors for miles. And it overlooked a lake, and it lay at the foot of a hill. It was quite difficult to work out how much land was included, but it seemed to be quite a bit. As we stood there looking at the house, a car drove by and stopped. It was the owner's husband, and we told him we were looking at the house as it was for sale. He jumped back in his car and went back to the village he came from to get his wife. As we found out a bit later, the house was hers. So she gave us a tour of the house and the grounds, which turned out to be almost 40,000 square meters. The house has a lake shore, its own forest, a freshwater well, and there's a tiny village with a grocery store about 7 kilometers away. And the next neighbor is 3 kilometers down the road. The road it sits on is a public gravel road. That means that the city council does the maintenance and comes to shovel snow in winter. But the road doesn't really lead anywhere, so there's hardly any traffic. Could it be any more perfect? Well, it could. The owners told us that the house is up for auction and that the last bid will be made this Friday. As today is Thursday evening, that gives us one night to think about it. So my wife called the estate agent while we were still at the house and told him we wanted to place a bid. He put us on the list and we could bid along the following morning. The next morning, Friday, we went to a small bakery where we had a lovely breakfast and at the same time made an offer on the house by text message. The bidding started with 30 people and by the end of the afternoon we were down to only 4. The agent sent us a message saying that the last 4 interested people could make a final offer and we would find out the next day whether we bought ourselves a house or not. It was between us, a German, an Italian and a Swede. Saturday morning. We were in this stunning Sami village when we got the phone call. The house was ours, but as it is in Sweden, it's not really yours until you've paid a deposit. Until then, anyone can and is allowed to change their mind and pull out. Half an hour later, still speechless, we received a phone call by the owner. She asked if we wanted to come over now to complete the paperwork that the estate agent had sent. Surprised at how quickly everything went, we drove back to the village and filled out the paperwork. We got the key in advance and could move into the house, just like that. On Sunday we had to go back to the owner to fill in more paperwork, together with the estate agent who gives instructions over the phone. And we get emailed a bill to make the deposit. So we pay, and that's it, all done. And don't forget it's Sunday. And so, more or less by accident, we've bought ourselves a house in Sweden.
Ben je blij?